The domestic economy, a strategic analysis. The corporate tower is emptying, not because of a recession, because the smartest operators have realized something the C-suite won't admit. The most valuable real estate in the modern economy isn't downtown. It's the 1,200 square feet you already own. While they're calculating commute time as dead equity, 2 hours daily, 10 hours weekly, 520 hours annually of unpaid labor, you're sitting in what venture capitalists would call an unfair advantage. Zero overhead, maximum trust infrastructure, complete operational sovereignty. By the end of this analysis, you'll understand why home-based administrative work isn't a compromise. It's a private equity play disguised as domesticity. Let's examine the asset class no one is properly valuing. The exhaustion you feel isn't personal failure. It's systemic design. The traditional employment model was architected for a singular economic unit, one breadwinner, one support system, zero competing priorities. That infrastructure collapsed in the 1970s, but the expectations didn't adjust. You're now running to full-time operations, professional output, and domestic management, using a framework built for one. Economic data suggests that women perform an average of 4 hours more unpaid labor per day than their male counterparts. That's not a lifestyle choice. That's a 1,460-hour annual gap in recognized productivity, the equivalent of a full-time role that generates zero equity, zero retirement contribution, zero resume value. The corporate solution has been flexibility, a word that means you absorb all the inefficiency while maintaining full output expectations. You're told to lean in, but the architecture you're leaning into was never designed to hold your weight. Here's what they won't tell you. The problem isn't your capacity, it's their business model. When you work from home, handling administrative operations, customer service, data entry, appointment coordination, inbox management, you're not settling for less. You're executing what private equity firms call operational efficiency. You've eliminated the most expensive line items in traditional employment: commute cost, wardrobe, overhead, childcare, arbitrage, and the productivity tax of open floor plan offices. But more importantly, you've retained something corporations spend millions trying to manufacture: uninterrupted deep work capacity. Let me introduce you to a concept we've been calling the domestic sovereignty framework. The world calls it working from home. We call it controlled environment capital. Here's the mechanism. Every Fortune 500 company understands that environment dictates performance. That's why they spend 6 figures per employee on office design, ergonomic consultants, and ambient acoustics. They know that a well-architected space generates measurable returns in focus, decision quality, and output consistency. You already own that infrastructure. You just haven't been accounting for it as a business asset. When you handle administrative work from your home, you're not participating in the gig economy. You're operating a micro-consultancy with a built-in competitive advantage. You control every variable: temperature, lighting, noise floor, interruption protocol, nutritional access, rest architecture. These aren't luxuries. They're the exact inputs that determine whether your nervous system operates in parasympathetic efficiency or sympathetic survival mode. Neurological research indicates that context switch into mental load of moving between professional demands and domestic awareness costs an average of 23 minutes of productivity per interruption. The corporate solution is to pretend you can segregate these realities, create boundaries, compartmentalize, but you've already recognized what they're denying. These realities are integrated, not separate. Your children aren't distractions from your professional life. They're the entire point of your economic architecture. The domestic sovereignty framework doesn't ask you to choose between caregiving and capital generation. It positions your caregiving presence as strategic leverage. Because here's what the data actually shows. The ability to remain proximate to your dependents while generating income isn't a productivity drain. It's a risk mitigation strategy that corporations would pay enormous premiums to access. You're not compromising, you're hedging. Let's talk about the work itself. Because there's been a deliberate administrative work, the kind you can execute from home, has been culturally devalued as just data entry or basic support tasks. But if you examine what these roles actually require, you'll find something interesting. They're testing for the exact cognitive skills that AI cannot yet replicate at human-level reliability: judgment, context, interpretation, emotional pattern recognition, ambiguity resolution. When you're handling customer service inquiries, you're not just answering emails. You're performing real-time brand reputation management. When you're coordinating scheduling conflicts across time zones, you're executing operations logistics. When you're processing intake forms or data verification, you're serving as quality control infrastructure. These are not diminished responsibilities. They're the connective tissue that prevents organizational systems from collapsing. And here's the strategic advantage you possess. You perform these tasks with what we call high-trust architecture. Because you work from a space of sovereignty rather than surveillance, your error rates drop. Your judgment sharpens. Your sustainability extends. Companies are beginning to recognize this. The smartest operators in the remote work economy aren't hiring for speed. They're hiring for discernment. They need people who can read between the lines of a frustrated customer email and determine whether this requires escalation or empathy. Who can spot the data anomaly that indicates fraud versus the one that indicates system error? Who can manage the human variables that automation keeps breaking against? This is intellectual capital, and you're building equity in it with every shift you complete. But let's address the infrastructure question. Because sovereignty without architecture is just chaos in a different location. If you're going to treat your home as a domestic HQ, not a makeshift office, but actual operational headquarters, you need to make capital expenditures that signal to your nervous system. The operator is online. I'm going to recommend one category of investment, and I want you to think about it not as a purchase, but as asset allocation for cognitive performance. Sanctuary technology. Specifically, noise-canceling headphones. Not the $30 pair. The ones that cost what a business lunch used to. The ones with adaptive transparency modes and spatial audio architecture. Here's why this matters. Your ability to enter deep work isn't just about willpower. It's about signal control. Every ambient noise, the refrigerator hum, the neighbor's dog, the delivery truck creates what neuroscientists call attentional residue. Your brain is constantly performing background processing to determine, is that sound a threat? Does it require response? Noise-canceling headphones don't just block sound. They eliminate the cognitive tax of auditory threat assessment. They allow your nervous system to release the low-grade vigilance that's been draining your processing power. When you put them on, you're not escaping your environment. You're curating it. You're making the same decision that CEOs make when they install soundproofing in their corner offices. I respect my cognition enough to protect it. This isn't about luxury. It's about recognizing that your focus is your inventory. If you were running a restaurant, you'd invest in refrigeration to protect your ingredients. You're running a cognitive operation. Invest in the tools that protect your most perishable asset, attention. The return on investment here is measurable. Every hour you retain in deep work instead of losing to fragmented, shallow tasks, which compounds, not just in the income you generate today, but in the skill architecture you're building for the next tier of opportunity. Now let's zoom out to the macro frame, because this isn't just about optimizing your current position. It's about understanding the dynasty logic. When you work from home, you're not just generating income. You're modeling economic sovereignty for the people watching you. Your children aren't seeing you disappear for 9 hours into the corporate apparatus, returning depleted. They're seeing you operate. They're learning that value generation doesn't require permission from an institution. That expertise can be portable. That you can design your economy instead of inheriting theirs. This is generational wealth that doesn't appear on a balance sheet. Sociological research on childhood development consistently shows that parental presence, not perfection, but proximity is the single strongest predictor of long-term security and resilience. Not quality time, quantity of ambient time. The hours where you're simply available, where your child learns that your world has space for them, even when you're working. You're building that, not because you're sacrificing professional ambition, but because you've restructured your professional architecture to accommodate the full scope of your priorities. The corporate model asks you to choose. The domestic HQ model asks you to design. Let's address compensation directly, because there's been strategic ambiguity around what home-based administrative work actually pays. The range is wide, $15 to $45 per hour, depending on specialization, client tier, and your negotiation architecture. Customer service and data entry tend to cluster at the lower end. Executive assistance, medical billing, and technical support move higher. But here's what matters more than the hourly rate: your cost structure. If you're earning $20 per hour from home, your net take-home often exceeds someone earning $30 per hour in a traditional office role. Once you account for commute cost, wardrobe overhead, lunch arbitrage, and childcare elimination, you're not comparing gross income. You're comparing net sovereignty. And more importantly, you're building skill equity that creates optionality. Every client you support becomes a reference. Every system you master becomes portable expertise. Every year you execute from a position of stability instead of chaos increases your operational ceiling. The corporations hiring for these roles know what they're accessing: reliable high-trust labor that doesn't require the overhead of physical infrastructure. You're not a cost center to them. Your margin expansion, make sure you're capturing your share of that value, not by performing urgency or scarcity, but by understanding your position in the value chain and negotiating accordingly. Here's the final frame, and it's the one that matters most. The noise in your house, the interruptions, the inefficiency, the moments where you have to close your laptop and tend to a scraped knee or a bad dream, these aren't obstacles to your empire. They're the reason for it. You're not building wealth in spite of your children. You're building it because of them, because you recognize that the corporate promise sacrifice, now, enjoy later, is a broken contract. That later keeps receding. That the corner office comes with a window that looks out at a parking lot, not a childhood. So when someone asks you what you do, here's the language. I run administrative operations for multiple clients from my domestic headquarters. I've structured my economy to optimize for presence, not performance theater. I generate income, build expertise, and remain proximate to my priorities. I'm not waiting for permission to design my life. I'm architecting it. That's not a job description. That's a manifesto. The smartest operators are already doing this. They're not on LinkedIn announcing it. They're quietly executing from the most valuable real estate in the modern economy, the space they control. Disclaimer: this content is for educational and informational purposes only and does not replace consultation with a professional. Always consult a qualified professional for any questions related to finance or business. Tell us where you're building your empire from. See you in the next video.